Former Brazilian actor Gerson Brenner passed away this Monday, March 23rd, after a long and painful journey that began decades ago, when his life was suddenly and violently altered. His death was caused by organ failure, a consequence rooted in a tragic gunshot wound to the head he suffered back in August 1998. That moment, which unfolded in the early hours of an ordinary day, would go on to define the rest of his life. He had been on his way to the set of the telenovela Corpo Dourado, continuing what was then a thriving and promising acting career, when he became the victim of an attempted robbery. What should have been another routine trip to work instead became the turning point that separated his life into a before and an after. At 66 years old, Brenner's name still carried the weight of the success he had built in the years before the tragedy. He had risen to fame as one of the recognizable faces of Brazilian television, especially during the 1990s, a time when soap operas held immense cultural influence. Audiences came to know him as a heartthrob, a charismatic presence who brought both charm and emotional depth to his roles. His performances in productions like Rainha da Sucata in 1990 and Deus nos acuda in 1993 helped cement his place in the industry. During that era, his image was closely tied to the glamour and appeal of television stardom, and he became a familiar figure to viewers who followed his work with admiration. Before stepping fully into acting, Brenner had started his professional journey as a model. It was through modeling that he first entered the public eye, gradually building a presence that would later open doors to television. However, it was his transition into acting that truly defined his career and gave him the recognition he would carry for the rest of his life. His roles in telenovelas allowed him to connect with audiences on a deeper level, and his performances reflected both his dedication and his natural ability to adapt to the demands of the screen. Over time, he became more than just a performer. He became a part of the stories that people invited into their homes every day. Everything changed in the early morning hours of August 17, 1998. On that day, Brenner found himself in a situation that quickly escalated into violence. While driving along Ayrton Senna Avenue in São Paulo, he was forced to stop his car after experiencing a problem with a tire. It was in that vulnerable moment, while attending to something as ordinary as changing a tire, that he was approached by a robber. The encounter turned into an attempted robbery, and in the chaos that followed, Brenner was shot in the head. The suddenness of the attack and the severity of the injury left no room for preparation or defense. In a matter of seconds, his life was irreversibly altered. The bullet struck him and became lodged in the back of his neck, causing devastating damage. He was rushed for medical attention, but the extent of his injuries was severe. Brenner fell into a coma that lasted for several months, a prolonged state that reflected the gravity of what his body had endured. During that time, uncertainty surrounded his condition, as those close to him waited and hoped for signs of recovery. When he eventually emerged from the coma, it became clear that the consequences of the shooting would be long-lasting and deeply impactful. The after-effects of the injury were profound. Brenner suffered impairments that affected his speech, his mobility, and his cognitive functions. These challenges reshaped every aspect of his daily life, turning once simple tasks into ongoing struggles. The man who had once moved freely across television sets, delivering lines and embodying characters, now faced limitations that required constant adjustment and support. His ability to communicate was altered, his physical independence reduced, and his mental processes affected in ways that demanded patience and resilience. From that point forward, Brenner's life took on a different rhythm. He became dependent on a wheelchair, a visible symbol of the physical toll the incident had taken on him. More importantly, he became reliant on the care and support of those around him. His family stepped into roles that required unwavering dedication, ensuring that he received the attention and assistance he needed. Among them was his wife, Marta Brenner, who stood by him throughout the years that followed. Her presence became an essential part of his life, offering both care and companionship during a period defined by challenges.